Hey Dragon Slayers! Today's video is about sperm production, erectile dysfunction, and their connection to insulin resistance. Sperm production, while perhaps not as complicated as ovulation, sperm production nonetheless requires the involvement of several hormones, including some from the brain and testosterone, and even estrogens from the testes. Disruptions in the normal production of these hormones can result in the failure to produce sufficient or healthy sperm. If testosterone is below normal levels, sperm production cannot occur. Erectile dysfunction in men with insulin resistance has increased, and erectile dysfunction gets worse as the insulin resistance becomes more severe. Indeed, the relationship is so tight that erectile dysfunction could be one of the earliest signs of insulin resistance, with scientists recently stating in a research article that insulin resistance may be the underlying pathogenesis of erectile dysfunction in young patients without well known other causes. In other words, if a seemingly healthy young man has erectile dysfunction, insulin resistance could very well be the cause. But to appreciate this connection, we need to revisit the powerful influence insulin wields on blood vessels. Erectile dysfunction typically stems from a problem of blood vessel regulation. Blood vessels must dilate dramatically to develop and sustain an erection. This process requires the production and actions of nitrous oxide. As discussed earlier, the endothelial cells, which are the cells that line the walls of the blood vessels, become insulin resistant. They produce less nitric oxide, which deprives the blood vessels of a strong dilating signal. If a woman's fertility is like an orchestra, a man's fertility is like a barbershop quartet. Fewer parts, but each one essential. The complication for men is that fertility requires both physical and hormonal processes. In both instances, insulin sings the lead and keeps the other characters on key. So I found this interesting research study that I'll share with you guys, just the conclusion of it. I put the link in the description below. It's from December of 2013. It says that in the current study, men with insulin resistance were clustered with simultaneous increases of adverse factors, including elevated cholesterol, LDL, triglycerides, C reactive protein, hemoglobin A1C. They were overweight and decreased positive factors such as lower HDL, testosterone, and low levels of SHBG. And this is sort of a thing that overrides male hormones, that produces male hormones. It tells the body how to produce the hormones and in what quantity. Most of these changes are related to the endothelial dysfunction, which we just learned about. These unfavorable changes may play a synergistic role in further impairing endothelial function in insulin resistant conditions. As confirmed by erectile dysfunction patients with insulin resistance, taken together with previous reports which have demonstrated that erectile dysfunction is a predictor of cardiovascular disease. It is reasonable to conclude that young men with insulin resistance are prone to a high risk of suffering erectile dysfunction and cardiovascular disease. In conclusion, the present study showed that insulin resistance is independently associated with erectile dysfunction and its severity, indicating that insulin resistance of may be a sign of erectile dysfunction subsequent or before cardiovascular disease. Because decreased endothelial function and testosterone levels were seen in erectile dysfunction patients with insulin resistance, suggesting the mechanisms of insulin resistance in the pathophysiology of erectile dysfunction. In clinical practice, early diagnoses and treatment of insulin resistance should be a part of the therapy plan for young adult men with erectile dysfunction. That's what I've got for you guys today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And remember that together, you and I will slay the dreaded diabetes dragon.